Hello guys, today I'm going to be doing an £800 gaming PC build. Now, this build I went slightly over budget to £810, but if you got this build, I'm pretty sure it'd be worth it, as it's only an extra £10, and I'm sure you'd rather do that than, skimp on a power supply or something like that. So, let's start off with this build. So for the motherboard, we have a MSI Z787 G43 ATX motherboard. Now this is decent looking board. It's got blue and black theme, which is like colour scheme, which is what we're going for in this build. Now this is probably one of the cheapest Haswell boards on the market, Z87, but I don't think just because it's cheap it's going to be terrible. It is a solid board for the money, and it should last you for many years down the line. It also has military class 4 capacitors and things like that, so it should last a long time. Now that comes in at only £88, and it's a really good board for the money. So moving on to the second thing, we have the OS. Now I only include this just because most people don't include it when they do budget builds online, but I think I should put it in and make it so if you already have an OS, don't buy this because this will just be an extra £70 for no reason. But what I mean by is if you already have an OS, is if you have an OS disk or you want to use Ubuntu or something like that. But this is Windows 8. It's just a standard 64-bit. As I said, completely optional. And if you don't want Windows 8, you can always go Windows 7. That's about the same price. But yeah, that's the OS. Some people don't like Windows 8, but I personally think it's not too bad. So the next thing is the CPU cooler. Gone for a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. Now this is a very popular cooler in budget builds, because it's so good for the money. It's only £26 and you could probably overclock your CPU to about 4.5 GHz on this, probably no problem. But you could easily get 4 GHz out of this thing, and I just think it's worth it for the money, because you get that much performance for only £26. Next thing is a SSD. I have gone for an SSD in this build just because of the speedy experience. So I've gone for a Kingston Technology 60GB SSD V300. This is probably one of the cheapest SSDs I could find. That's why I got it, but just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's bad. It has, I think, about 300 megs write and about 350 read, so it's not a slow hard drive or SSD, and I would recommend this. Now I've only gone for the 60GB version just because it's cheaper. You could always upgrade to 120 for about £30 more. Moving on to the next thing, we have a mechanical hard drive, which is just for storing music and everything, because obviously 60GB won't be enough for all that. So I've gone for a Western Digital Caviar Blu 500GB. This is a SATA III, so we got those nice speeds with 16 megs of cache. Now I've only gone for the 500GB version just because it was sort of out of my budget if I went to a terabyte, but that's only £10 more. So if you do have the cache to splash and you need bigger hard drives, then get a terabyte or two, whatever you need. But for an average person, you won't need any more than 500 gigs. Now if you plan to record games on this PC, you may need a terabyte hard drive or something to get you started, but yeah, that's only £10 more. Moving down, we just have a cheap and cheerful optical drive. This is a Samsung 24X SATA DVD Writer. Now you don't have to get the Samsung, I just got this Samsung because it was the cheapest at the time, at £15. And yeah, if you already have one of these just lying around, make sure it's a SATA one. I use that instead, because really we're only going to be using this for installing Windows and if you have any games on CD or whatever, or DVD. So that's sort of an optional part. I know you could always install Windows 8 off a USB, so you don't really need that anyway. It's only £15. So for the power supply, we're going for a Corsair Builder Series CX500M. It's a modular power supply, or semi-modular. What I mean by semi-modular is the 24 pin and the 8 pin are non-modular, but all the rest are modular. So this should help with your cable management if you're going to go for a clean looking app. And we're going to have a window on the case, so if you want to do good cable management, I recommend this power supply. Now, this has sort of a nice black power supply look, which will go in with the build, and you know, it's a decent power supply for the price. 80 plus bronze certified, so that should keep you running for quite a few years. And don't say if you want to save money, don't skimp on the power supply. So if you go with one of those cheapo £20 ones that are like 750 watts, they're not going to last you at all, and they could easily, say if you put that in your system and it blows, it could easily take your motherboard, maybe your processor with it. So you don't want to be doing that. So just spend the extra money and get a decent power supply. And for the case, we've got a Zalman Z11 Plus. Now this seems to be a popular case around budget builds because it's cheap, it's decent looking, and it's got the LED fans. So I was trying to go for a blue and black colour scheme in this build, just because of the case lights and stuff. So the motherboard is black and blue, your RAM will be blue, and you know, this is a black case with blue lighting. It's also got the side window. So you don't have to go for this case. If you want to change anything at all in this build, I'd change the case, just because you know, it's really what your system's going to look like. And yeah, as you can see here, it's got a smoked glass side window, so it won't be, you know, it'll be quite dark, but with the blue LEDs your components will look quite good inside. That's only £50, and that's a really good deal for a case of this type. And moving on to the graphics card, we have a GTX 760 Superclocked 2GB. This is the EVGA version. So this graphics card should play most of your games on high to very high settings, maybe even some on ultra, maybe older ones. But this, it does have the 7 series, which were released a few months ago, and it's also superclocked, so you will get better performance than normal GTX 660s. And also, this is the cheapest one I could find. If this one's not in stock, you're looking at about £20 more to get an Asus one or anything else. So if you do plan to get this build by the time I'm making this video, and this is not in stock, I'd recommend waiting unless you want to spend the extra £20. Going down to the RAM, we have some Kingston HyperX Genesis RAM. This is blue. It will go with our black and blue scheme, and it won't really matter when it's in our build. But you know, it comes in at £57, and as you may know, the price of RAM has been rocketing up over the past few months. About 6 months ago, I think it was about £35 for 8GB. Now it's about 60, so I recommend you get this as soon as possible. And this runs at 1.65 volts, so you may have some you won't have any problems with your motherboard, but some people may say the Haswell architecture may have to downclock your RAM, but that'll be fine. So that's 8GB. Now going to last part, we have our CPU, which is an Intel Core i5 4670K. It's a very good CPU for the money, just like the 3570K and the 2500K was. This is based on the new Haswell architecture, which came out about 3 months ago, and yeah, this is only £167, so this at the moment is cheaper than the 3570K. So I recommend you get this, and you know, it'd be a great processor for gaming. You don't need an i7 for gaming, so if you're thinking of doing that, the hyper-threading won't help at all, really. You maybe get like 1 or 2 extra frames. But yeah, this CPU will also do quite well in video editing and rendering. It won't be bad. You know, it'll render videos quite fast, but as a mid-range processor, I think it's really good. So that's it for this build, guys. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. and favourite. Also post in the comments and let me know if you want me to continue this series with different price points, like £650, 500, you know, all of that. So that's it for this budget build, guys. Thank you for watching.